So what happens when you take two classic all-American trucks and pit them against each other in a wild cross-country battle for total supremacy? Well, today we're diving into a YouTube challenge that's part road trip, part demolition derby, and honestly, just a whole lot of chaos. The mission? To finally settle the age-old debate and find out who makes the ultimate classic workhorse.
Now, on the surface, the mission sounds pretty simple, right? Just figure out which brand, Ford or Chevy, built the better classic truck. But oh man, the way they go about it is anything but simple. We're talking a series of brutal and, let's be honest, pretty ridiculous tests designed to push these old-school machines and their drivers to the absolute breaking point.
And this is the question at the heart of it all. It's an argument that's probably started in every garage and job site across the country for decades. It's practically woven into American car culture. Are you Team Chevy, with its rugged dependability, or are you Team Ford, with its hard-working legacy? Well, this challenge is all about settling that score, once and for all.
And the setup is just brilliantly chaotic. You ready for this? They literally threw a dart at a map of the US. It landed on Baghdad, Florida, a place they'd never heard of, and boom, that was the starting line. From there, the plan was to find two trucks and just go. It's a journey that you just know is going to be filled with breakdowns, trash talk, and some seriously weird challenges.
Okay, so let's meet our fighters. In one corner, you've got Cody, and he is championing Team Ford. And in the other corner, we have Brady, repping Team Chevy. Now, they each had a budget of around $12,000 to track down what they thought was the perfect classic ride for this showdown.
Right off the bat, their choices show a really interesting difference in strategy. Cody's Ford is this big two-wheel drive dually, a pure, heavy-hauling beast with a super practical dump bed, and he got it for a cool $10,500, under budget. Brady's Chevy, on the other hand, is a more versatile four-wheel drive K20. He kept talking about its perfect steering, but it did cost him the full $12,000. So he's basically got a classic matchup, pure raw utility versus all-around capability.
And you guessed it, the trash talk starts immediately, like the second they drive each other's trucks. After a quick spin in Brady's Chevy with its smooth automatic transmission and comfy ride, Cody does not hold back. He basically calls it a feminine truck compared to his rough-and-tumble Ford.
Of course, Brady fires right back. His first thought getting into the Ford? That the interior is super basic, calling it a poverty model. So you see, right from the jump, this isn't just about the truck's performance. It's about personal pride and good old-fashioned brand loyalty. So, with the battle lines clearly drawn, the competition gets going for real. And this, my friends, is where things get really, really fun. These trucks are about to go through a whole gauntlet of challenges, ranging from the super practical to the completely absurd.
First up is a real-world test that actually matters on a long trip like this: fuel economy. Which one of these old, gas-guzzling V8s is the thirstier beast? To find out, they tracked every single drop of fuel they used all the way from the starting point in Baghdad. And wow, the results are not even close. It's a decisive victory for Team Chevy. The Ford absolutely chugged fuel, burning through a whopping 83 gallons. The Chevy, only 64. That is a huge difference, and it gives Brady the first clear point of the competition.
But hey, practical tests are only half the fun, right? The next challenge was just a pure, unadulterated power play. It was designed by Cody specifically to show off what he thought was his Ford's single biggest advantage. He called it the superiority challenge.
So get this wasn't even a real planned challenge at first. Cody just decides to use his truck's giant dump bed to physically lift and carry Brady's entire Chevy, just to prove he could. He literally made up a challenge on the spot that only his truck was physically capable of winning. You gotta respect the hustle.
And from that point on, the competition just dives headfirst into hilarious chaos. I mean, they're testing things like whose windshield wipers are faster, whose doors have a more satisfying thud when you close them. They even had a challenge worth 20 points, for crying out loud, based on which driver's name was Cody. And this is why it's so great. It's not about scientific accuracy. It's pure spectacle, it's about personality, and it's about answering the dumb questions you'd only ever ask your buddies.
But right in the middle of all this chaos, everything comes to a screeching halt. In a really sharp turn, Cody stops the whole video to talk about a very serious, real-world problem he's been dealing with. One that has nothing to do with trucks and everything to do with some maddening bureaucracy.
Yeah, he prefaces the whole thing by saying this is something that affects everyone, and the tone just completely shifts. He goes from this fun, over-the-top competition to a really personal and frustrating story about getting tangled up in government red tape.
So here's the breakdown. He has an old shop on his property that was built without what he calls a permit to not have a permit. Yeah, you heard that right. Basically, the original builder didn't file the right paperwork to prove a permit wasn't needed in the first place. And because of that bureaucratic nightmare, the county has frozen all new construction on his land. The end result? A $250,000 steel building that he's already bought and paid for is just sitting outside, rusting away, completely useless. It is a classic, infuriating catch-22.
After that pretty heavy detour, we get back to the competition. With all the challenges, the breakdowns, and the arguments finally in the rearview mirror, it's time to do what we came here to do. Declare a winner in the age-old battle of Ford versus Chevy.
So, who took home the crown? After everything they went through, was it the more fuel-efficient Chevy with its handy four-wheel drive? Or was it the monstrous Ford Dually that literally carried its competition on its back?
And here is the final amazing twist. They never finished. Cody just announces that they quit the competition. Why? Because they'd both grown to love these classic trucks too much. They just couldn't bring themselves to potentially destroy them just for the sake of winning a contest.
But you can't just end it there, right? In a competition this personal, someone has to be the winner. So with no official points to go by, the final verdict came down to a much, much simpler method.
And there you have it, folks. Cody, the guy who organized the whole thing, simply declares himself the winner. Because, well, he can. It is the perfect, chaotic ending to a perfectly chaotic competition that was always more about personality than it ever was about points. You know, this whole thing leaves us with a pretty interesting question to chew on. In a contest that's completely fueled by a genuine passion for the machines themselves, maybe the real victory isn't about crushing the other guy. Maybe it's about knowing when to walk away to preserve something you love. What do you think?